Morning, everybody. Right, thank you for joining us on time and all getting down here in an orderly fashion. Welcome to this, the first of the launch events then for the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund for Transforming Construction. So this is the launch event for the Collaborative Research and Development Round 2 programme and the demonstration call. So welcome today. For those of you who are interested in having a social media presence and want to do activity on Twitter, then the Twitter handle we use there is the one there at the bottom, which is #IndustrialStrategy. If you put in Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund, you'll run out of characters pretty quickly to say anything else. So we just use Industrial Strategy, and then that will get picked up by our amplifiers in terms of spreading that message around. So welcome. So just to cover the essential bit, in terms of the toilets and so forth, those are straight out through these doors where we came in, and they're directly in front of you. So just down that little flight of stairs there, and they're directly in front of you on either side of that staircase, left and right. I think the gents are on the left. The gents also houses the disabled facilities for anybody who requires those. And there is a lift, but I don't think there is actually a lift on this floor for some reason. So I don't know how they would get here in a wheelchair, but there is facilities in there should you require those. And the cloakroom, if you want to store your bags, is at the bottom of that staircase, directly in front of you if you've not found it so far. In terms of alarms and fire exits, we are not expecting a fire alarm today. So if the fire alarm does go today, it is a requirement for us to vacate the building. If we are going to vacate, then it's fairly obvious from here. We just go straight out that door marked exit. That takes us into a mews area. We then have to navigate out of the mews area on the far side, go all the way around the streets, and then reappear back on Portland Place outside number 76, which also belongs to Reba, who are our hosts for today. If you're upstairs where we had registration this morning, then for there, we need to go out through those glass doors onto the terrace area and then all file through a very small door on the far side. So please pace yourselves because we're going to have a bit of a crush trying to get out through that door. So not a great design. In terms of communications, obviously we're going to have a series of presentations during the day, so as a courtesy to our speakers, if you do wish to take a call, please do go back through into the foyer area if you do need to make a call. In terms of, as I said, in terms of sort of Twitter and online activity, if you want to use the hashtag Industrial Strategy. And if you're looking for Wi-Fi access, because I haven't tried the signal down here, but I'm guessing it's a bit interfered with, the Wi-Fi is just Reba Public, is the network you're looking for. There's no requirement to log in or give your email address. It's just a free to use Wi-Fi service for those who want to use that. Just to cover then, in terms of the delegates' information, so when you registered, you were asked if you would consent to making your information available to others. So for those of you that have, you'll then appear on a delegates list which will be circulated after the events, along with all the slides that you'll see today from the presentations. So those will all go out in a series of files for you to download at your leisure. We also have the give-get cards, which went out with your delegate join-in pack. This is your opportunity to say what you offer if you're looking to join a consortium, or if you've got a project that you're developing and you want to invite additional members to join you, then that's your means of expressing what you're looking for to make up your team. Those give-get cards we print out and present at each of the venues. So we take them on to all of the venues, and again, those will be available electronically for you after the events. So you'll see what give-get cards are handed in at the other venues as we go around the country, because this is the first of the events. So we're off to Cardiff, Birmingham, Belfast, then Glasgow. So we'll be picking these up as we go along. Very briefly then, just in terms of who we are. So my name is Mark Wray. I work for the Knowledge Transfer Network. We're part of the Innovate UK family, along with the Catapult Centres and the Enterprise Europe Network. And we make up the Innovation Network along with Innovate UK and the UK Research and Innovation Group. Our primary role with the KTN is to drive the innovation networks from a sectorial focus. So we look after a host of sectors. Last count it was 19, I think, and we engage with around about 155,000 individuals working across 55,000 different companies and organisations. We provide free and confidential advice. We provide expert advice on how to go about seeking funding and developing innovation projects. We have a series of tools and market insights and sectorial focus insights, and including some of the international work through the work we do on the global expert missions. So if there's a country you're particularly interested in or a technology, then we have some information and data which is freely available to you. We also undertake events and provide introductions and connections, events like today. We help you find partners and people to work with and to make up your project teams. And we can also help you review your proposals. But we need you, if you come to us early enough, we can help look over your applications and give you pointers and advice. But please don't come to us in the last week, and certainly don't come to us on the last day asking for help. So the earlier you can engage with us, the better. We also run a host of other programs and communities as well. The ones relevant to this particular call would be those around Immerse UK, which is about 6,000 companies who form a community that work in immersive experience technologies. We also are the host and secretariat to the Innovation in Infrastructure program, I3P, which is the 9 or 10 now biggest clients and their tier 1 supply chain for infrastructure delivery. So we run an innovation club for them, and they cover about 60% of all the infrastructure work that's undertaken in the UK. So we have all of those through our websites. If you want to connect to all of that, then the easiest way is to sign up to our newsletters. These are now targeted, so you just tell us what you're interested in, and we then send you a newsletter with all the things that you're interested in. And we scour the innovation arena for funding opportunities, events, activities, and bring that all together in a nice, neat newsletter. And you can also obviously communicate with us directly if you so wish as well through the contact details that are there. So without further ado, we're going to move into the event itself. So you hopefully have received a copy of the agenda for today. We have a series of presentations this morning, starting with Stacey, the Challenge Director for this programme. We've got a series of presentations which outlines the scope of this call and the sort of the opportunity that this call represents. Then we move into a short break to give you a chance to stretch your legs and get some refreshments. And then we're back then to have a presentation then from the Innovate UK competitions team to talk about the process of making the application. And then we're pleased to be joined then to be finished with then the other parties to the Transforming Construction Challenge, those from the Construction Innovation Hub and the Active Building Centre, who'll provide an overview of a more detailed overview of what it is that they're going to be doing in this space and what their activity is over the next 5 or so years. So, without further ado, over to you then, Sam. You can have that back.
Hi, good morning. Nice to see so many people here today. So I'm Stacey. I'm the Challenge Director for the Transforming Construction programme. I've been doing this for a year. Before that, I was Innovation Director at Skanska. So I've been on the other side of the fence with regards to this for quite a few years, and I know the process of getting involved with these funded programmes. So the construction industry actually produces some magnificent things. I've had a fantastic career making all sorts of exciting buildings in the construction industry. And also, I'm very aware that the UK is a global leader in terms of construction, in terms of the way we do construction. But at the moment, still, there is a lot of chaos in the way that we go about our activities. Waste all over the place. So this is, there's a whole list of areas where we're wasting resources, we're wasting time, energy, and so forth. And we do need to integrate better in order to address these things. So the programme, looked at from one perspective, is about eliminating all sorts of waste from the construction industry. And that's just sort of an example of a chaotic situation. About 4 people in that picture doing anything useful, and the rest just sort of hanging around and not helping. So, what's the programme to address this? I think fundamentally we need to deal with the fragmentation of the industry. We need to integrate better vertically, and whether that's a question of companies becoming fully vertically integrated, and we are seeing a little bit of a trend towards that, or virtual vertical integration that you get with the enterprise approach to projects. So Project 13 that some people will have heard of is an example of that. So the vertical bars represent the vertical integration that I think we need to see in the industry, and the Construction Innovation Hub is very much going to sort of pave the way or demonstrate how that would work for the industry, and we'll be hearing a lot more about that later. Also the Active Building Centre in terms of how we tie it all together vertically. Also horizontally, we need to collect and share information across the industry a whole lot better than we do. And then that's going to open up the channels for machine learning to be applied to construction. And I'm very gratified to see the amount of interest we've had in machine learning solutions for AI solutions for the construction industry. And I've got a few projects that I'll mention later on. And we have to change the skill base for the industry. That's not a primary focus for the program, but we're certainly going to be defining the job descriptions for the future of the industry and helping to support the organisations like the CITB that generate skills, that develop skills for the industry. Skills for organisations we're definitely supporting. So I guess the relationship that we hope to have with you guys will be partly about developing skills of organisations. So what's the programme consist of? 170 million of taxpayers' money is being forked out to support and develop the construction industry. That's a triumph. That's a fantastic thing to have achieved for the industry, to really get that level of government support. 250 million of match funding committed by the industry. So really that's about aligning the R&D spend, the innovation spend of the organisations in the construction industry in line with the aims of the Transforming Construction programme. It's a 4-year programme, about a year into it at the moment, and really the whole point of this is that we achieve this step change in the industry. We kind of reset the way the industry works over this 4-year period, and then that becomes a sustainable model for a much more effective and efficient construction industry going forward. In terms of the split of the 170 million, 72 going to the Construction Innovation Hub, 36 million the Active Building Centre, and the rest, 59, more than half of which we're talking about today. So the themes of the programme are really digital, manufacturing and performance. So absolutely kind of moving to the next level in terms of BIM and digital techniques for the industry. Transferring manufacturing approaches, learning as much as we can from automotive and aerospace and such like, and transferring that into the construction sector. And then focusing on whole life performance. You know, I think everyone will recognise the concept that we've generally much too focused on CapEx with regards to the built environment, and having a much more balanced approach that encompasses the long-term benefits of the building would be much more sensible. And we're looking for ways to describe that, to make intelligent decisions about that, and to support that. So how does it all happen? Well, we've got to procure differently, and there are tools and processes that we're sponsoring and developing to improve procurement, very much joined up with government procurement. So, you know, massive buying power of government supporting that. Industry-led innovation. So again, that's kind of the primary focus of what we're all here for today. So I would see that as de-risking solutions for the built environment, de-risking solutions in construction, close to market stuff. You know, you'll be hearing about this from lots of different angles today, but stuff that we can really demonstrate works and we can take to market and scale with confidence. and also the skills that I've mentioned before. So this is all part of the construction sector deal, which itself is part of the industrial strategy for the UK. Industrial strategy was kind of launched on the back of the brave new Brexit kind of a world. So one way or another, whatever happens, the UK's got to get in best shape in terms of its industry, and different sectors within industry have pitched for sector deals. So we've got a construction sector deal. The 170 million, the Transforming Construction programme, is part of that. As I say, very joined up with government procurement. So those 5 government departments, they're the ones that mainly procure construction. So they're committed to favour off-site fabrication, to ask for digital techniques and so forth, and really to absorb the recommendations that we'll be developing as part of the Transforming Construction programme. Key part of this is the Construction Innovation Hub, which I won't dwell on now because we have the Chief Executive of the Construction Innovation Hub who will be talking to you in greater detail later. But I'll just describe the centres that have come together to form the Construction Innovation Hub. You've got the Manufacturing Technology Centre, which will be focused on product family architectures and the process engineering. So that industrial knowledge transfer into construction. Got the Building Research Establishment, experts in performance testing and validation, and great reach into the industry, particularly through constructing excellence, but really great reach across the industry. And then the Cambridge Centre for Digital Built Britain, that is kind of picking up the digital work associated with transforming construction. And this, you'll probably hear more about this from Keith as well. But at the heart, I see the Construction Innovation Hub as developing this kit of parts, this interoperability for the built environment, otherwise known as the platform concept, the design platform concept. So kit of parts, digital and physical configurator tool or set of tools to configure buildings, and really driving this efficiency that we've seen in other manufacturing sectors through the industry. But I won't go into more detail on that at this point. Then we're also sponsoring the Active Building Centre. So this is about collecting, storing and distributing renewable energy through buildings. So this is something that will touch absolutely everybody. In a way, you've got two aspects to the Transforming Construction programme. You've got the aspect of really transforming the industry to improve the lives, I hope, and the jobs and the job prospects and so forth of people who work in construction. And then you've got the wider benefits for society. And the Active Building Centre really is going to reach loads of people across society, because this is about supporting the electrification of the transport system. This is about reducing energy poverty. This is about creating critical mass of energy positive buildings with the evidence to back up the business case for massive scaling of energy positivity. And through the programme, paving the way for a retrofit of energy positive technologies. That's not the primary focus of the Active Building Centre and the programme, but creating the pathway to adapting existing building stocks. Again, you'll be hearing more about this from Jan later, so I don't need to say too much about this. In terms of what we've funded so far, I think everyone will be aware that this is round 2 of the research funding. So roughly the same brief in terms of the CR&D call that we've got now for the first CR&D call. And I was very gratified to see that we had a really even spread of winning bids in the information category, so referring back to my integration slide earlier, in the machine learning or AI category, and then in the product and process, the manufacturing approach to construction. So it's an indication for me that the industry is already kind of realizing the opportunities, and there's already quite a bit of momentum there in terms of the direction we need to travel in, and the expertise and capability that we need to develop. Across the bottom, I've sort of separated out some things that they've got a slightly longer time horizon that we're sponsoring. So robot clusters for building robots, which is a sort of longer term thing, so that's more of an academically oriented thing. 3D concrete printing we're continuing to support, and non-prismatic concrete, so that's concrete structures that are shaped much more efficiently in terms of the forces within the concrete. Alexa for sites, incidentally, is also more of a long-term play, so this is sort of something you can talk to on site that will give you all the information you need about the project and who should do what at what time. Couple of projects to mention that are sort of ahead of the curve or particularly significant. So before the first round of CR&D, we sponsored this project called Seismic, which is for standardization of steel frames. So this is an example of a platform design where we're standardizing dimensions, we're standardizing connections and opening up a market for refining of components within a specified framework. So really trying to get this efficiency into the market. So that's why I've flagged this one, and the indications already are very positive in terms of hitting the metrics that we're after, the improvement metrics that we're after for the industry. So that's already being picked up by Department for Education in terms of their procurement of the next batch of schools. So again, showing that flow through into government procurement and leveraging the buying power of government. And this is the single biggest investment we've made to date in terms of collaborative R&D. So a really substantial move into industrializing housing. So big involvement from both commercial developers and housing associations, and working with off-site and modular experts in the residential sector. And I think this is my last slide, so sorry that this is a bit wordy, but you can have a chance to see this later. So in terms of the way we're tracking the programme, it's what you'd expect in terms of the benefits that we're seeking, but we're going to be starting to track this on a quarterly basis. So reduction in whole life costs, we need to be seeing that the principles are being adopted by a worthwhile proportion of the market. We've mentioned 3 billion worth of projects by the end of the programme. Reduction in delivery time, improvements in the trade gap for the nation, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, improvements in productivity, and we do know that if you can move operations off-site, or I say we know, my experience has been if you move operations off-site, you instantly double productivity. In terms of doing things in a site environment versus a factory environment, you can double productivity just without, even before you're using clever automation and so forth. The industry investment, so that's tracking what I hope will be a lot more than the 250 million that the industry's committed already. The critical mass of energy positive buildings, so that's making sure that we're actually getting those demonstrator projects that people can point to and say, look, they work, there are no problems with these things, they're paying off economically, it's a really investable proposal. I'll tell you concepts of scale, so tracking the way the government procurement in particular and other procurers are adopting the outputs of the programme. Improved lifetime performance, and then improved quality assurance of buildings. So these are the things we're concentrating on. These are the things that we all are going to need to provide evidence on. So that was a quick run through of the programme. You'll be getting to a lot more detail on a lot of topics from other speakers. But really, I think, a fantastic step forward for the UK construction industry, a real opportunity to take us out in front of the rest of the world. You know, we're a leader already, but really go out in front of the rest of the world and bring benefits both to us in the industry and society at large. Thanks. So, who is up next? Catherine DeMarco.
Thank you. So, I don't have a lapel mic, and being slightly vertically challenged, I need to make a few adjustments. Can you hear me? All right, great. So thank you for inviting me, and it's a real pleasure to see so many people in the audience. I'm Catherine DeMarco, as it says on the slide, and I'm going to talk to you about the government strategy for transforming infrastructure in two beautifully named strategies, I have to say, which culminate in some lovely and more sayable acronyms, TIP and TIES. So I'll leave it at that because you can read the full names on the slide. I'm going to start by talking to you a little bit about some things you know and taking a bit of a step back. So this is really why we're here. I think, as we all know, infrastructure investment can drive productivity, right, and growth. It can unlock housing, improve the performance of transport, support the movement of people and goods around the country, as well as energy, digital networks, etc. Ultimately, high-quality public services. So those are all the lovely lines. But at the moment, as we know, and the reason why we're all here is, as we're all told in government, construction supply chain can be categorized by high levels of fragmentation and, until now, relatively low levels of investment. The chart, taken from the TIP, which I will go on to talk about, shows in the red line there construction productivity as compared to whole economy, which is the sort of turquoise green line, and manufacturing productivity over the period from 1997 to 2017. So I think, you know, we all know construction has had a fairly difficult performance in terms of its overall productivity in that time period. And I just want to quote something here from Sir John Egan's Rethinking Construction report, which was written in 1998. And obviously there's been a whole body of literature since, but I think, you know, this historically is our starting point. So he said, the industry as a whole is underachieving. It has low profitability and invests too little in capital, research and development and training. So pretty poor start in 1998. Obviously, we're not in that space now, are we? Because, you know, a problem for everybody here in that room, in this room, and this is exactly why we're here, and this is exactly why competitions such as this and funding such as this is such a brilliant opportunity for all of us. So, infrastructure investment, you've probably heard this line so many times, is trebling to a historic high. I've got Keith shaking his head, but you can correct me later. Chart on the left-hand side shows investment over the 3 years from 1819 to 2021. And on the right-hand side, the pie shows investment to 2027. So I'm not going to labor these. You'll have seen these previously. But, you know, £600 billion to 2027, a massive slice, 200 billion of which is on economic infrastructure, such as transport and energy. So, a huge pot of money and therefore a huge opportunity. So, in response to the huge opportunity, the IPA launched TIP. TIP, which is a long-term change program, which aims to transform the way we select, deliver, and understand economic and social infrastructure. It's about scheduling cost and performance data to improve selection and appraisal of projects, joining government up more in delivering economic and social infrastructure, so the Infrastructure Projects Authority working right across government, and pushing forward productivity in delivery, principally through the use of modern methods of construction and other new technologies. So TIP has 4 themes: benchmarking for better performance. Obviously, that's about the use of cost, schedule, and performance benchmarks and projects, better alignment and integration, making sure that projects and programs are planned in an integrated way, procurement for growth, so Sam particularly alluded to this, building a better commercial relationship between clients and the supply chain, and smarter infrastructure, as I've already mentioned, increasing the use of new technology to drive delivery of infrastructure in a more productive way. Not going to go into loads of detail there. All this is online. Please, I would advise you to go and have a look, refresh your memories about the strategy. So, since the launch, which was in December 2017, TIP has made progress on all themes, and there's a sort of selection of things up there on the slide. In particular, so benchmarking for success. Now, benchmarking is really difficult, as I'm sure you would appreciate. The IPA has worked actually with my colleagues in the Department for Transport as well to publish a tunnelling case study. Again, please go and have a look at that online. And published a methodology, a general approach for benchmarking techniques. On alignment and integration, there's been a lot of work on the Oxford-Cambridge ARC to deliver and support housing infrastructure fund bids as well. Procuring for growth, a working group has been established, and on smarter infrastructure, there was a call for evidence on platform design for manufacture and assembly recently, so I'm hoping a number of you responded to that. And the Smarter Infrastructure Working Group works across government to monitor progress on our presumption for off-site construction. So we in Transport are also part of that group, as are DFE and MOD and MOJ, et cetera, and we all get together to monitor kind of how we're doing on that presumption. So crucially, TIP aligns with other initiatives across government and in the supply chain too, through the ICE. A few of them up there, obviously industrial strategy and construction sector deal being one of them. You will have come across the ICE Project 13 approach to procurement, and my own favourite, TIES, which is the initiative that I lead. So just a word on this. Sometimes you see all this documentation, government strategies or documentation coming from different parts of the industry, and it can tend to look a little bit like a confusing mess. It isn't. Actually, all these things align really well. So I'm now going to go on and talk about my own favourite, which is TIES, and essentially what the Transport Infrastructure Efficiency Strategy does is use transport and the departments and our permanent secretaries' convening power for our own client bodies around the need to transform infrastructure delivery. So essentially, it's TIP for transport. So the logos of the partners are at the top of that slide. It is very much a collaboration. It's not about DFT doing this to our partners at all. And therefore, we have a public sector chair of the task force that delivers the strategy. For those of you who don't recognise that person, that's Mike Brown, who's the Transport Commissioner for London. So we launched the efficiency strategy in 2017, joint with the TIP. So it's all about joined up government. And really, TIES is underpinned by three main principles. It's about collaborating and shared problem solving across all those transport bodies. It's about adopting and implementing and really scaling up best practice and not necessarily reinventing the wheel. And it's about supporting continuous improvement by developing robust evidence, and I'll go on to talk about what that means in a bit, to understand performance and incentivize innovation. So, as we always say, the greatest opportunities to do this are in the early stages of investment planning. So you can't really retrofit any of this stuff into projects. TIES has been going, as I said, since 2017. We publish an annual report every year. That's something that we committed to do in order to keep holding our feet to the fire on delivery, and it is a really, really effective mechanism in order to do that. So we published our first annual report in March of last year. Please go online, have a look at the original strategy and the first annual report. I'm quite proud of it. Obviously, publishing these documents is incredibly time-consuming. It tends to kind of use up quite a lot of resource in the team, but there's some really good, especially sort of case studies and more detail on what we're actually doing there. And we have an ecosystem now of a number of working groups that support all the work that we're pushing forward. So, please go and have a look at that. I'm going to canter through a little bit what this looks like. So, obviously, our ambition is to deliver a step change in infrastructure projects. And again, sort of power of three. Anyone who's recently read the infrastructure efficiency strategy will know that we had 7 challenges. We've sort of brigaded those challenges into 3 main themes now. I'm kind of a great believer in the power of 3, but just to reassure you that we haven't quietly ditched anything. It's still all there. So firstly, and most importantly, actually to underpin everything we do, it's increasing our understanding of cost and performance through benchmarking in order to develop that robust baseline. And, critically important that we really understand our costs and the differences in costs. Equally for conventional infrastructure delivery as for more innovative delivery, because we need to be able to make those business cases so that they get through our investment boards. Second theme is around exploiting digital and innovative technologies, including action and maintenance of our infrastructure assets. So those 3 things I've just said, those that equates to our transport definition of modern methods of construction. It's about design, construction phase, and maintenance. And then, of course, enabling delivery through our business processes. So that's a little bit of a proxy for us talking about our own business cases, the processes that we go through internally in DFT to generate those really robust business cases that stand up to future scrutiny. as well as around our approach to procurement and our commercial strategies, how we actually engage more effectively with our supply chain partners around delivering projects that have innovative components. And you may ask if current traditional procurement strategies really support that. So, just unpacking a little bit more around what those themes are. So, as I said, benchmarking, really critical to understand our costs and efficiencies. And if you think about ties as a sort of pyramid, I really see this as the foundations. It is underpinning everything that we do. So we're doing a sort of two-speed approach there. Really, really good strategic benchmarking is going to take a while. That sort of benchmarking that enables us to really understand how we kind of the support for wider strategic objectives like reducing carbon and the things that Sam had up on his last slide. That's going to take a while. We have to do something in the meantime that allows us to show real value in this approach. And obviously, we work for government. We need to have some kind of quick fire results at times. So we've also got a short-term program which allows us to prove value, prove our methodology, get something out of the door fairly quickly. Short-term, high-impact, 6-month program focusing on unit costs of assets. So we're doing footbridges, earthworks and preliminaries in the first instance, and we're hoping to have some first kind of outputs of that exercise right across our ties partners sort of at the end of this year, and then in parallel we're looking at the more longer term strategic stuff. And then the outputs of this activity obviously then enables us to underpin our support for innovation. So a number of logos up there. Obviously, this is a space where there are lots of players, and we are working with I3P, Sam mentioned previously, and the Transport Research Innovation Board, which I'm not sure that many of you would have heard of, but obviously some of the same players on that, but also some of the universities, the research funders have a place in that. And obviously talking a lot to the Construction Innovation Hub, the IPA, etc. So I feel like we are a good collaborator, we're a good corporate citizen. In particular, in this space, we're supporting the rollout of automated design. Some really great examples of that already in transport. So I would point you to, in particular, to the rapid engineering model that was developed by Bryden Wood in support of the Smart Motorways programme for Highways England, which is really a great example of what can be done to be really, really transformative. We are promoting construction techniques that exploit manufacturing processes. So again, some lovely examples across our partners, like Network Rails, modular stations, to name it, some really good time delivery and cost savings there. And encouraging the use of technology to improve asset management capability, benefits across the whole life of the asset. Again, lovely examples, drone technology, etc., where we can do that and not in a really, really expensive way either. So as a collective, we're working with the Construction Innovation Hub. We are also establishing client readiness to adopt modern methods of construction. So again, monitoring our progress, how many projects we're doing, what the value of those projects is, looking at our own organisations to establish our organisational readiness to deliver modern methods of construction, and initiating activity to harmonise and digitalise our standards. So to do the other two, really, really important that we sort out our standards. Anyone who's been through the old version of the Design Manual for Roads and Bridges, DMRB, will know that it's a kind of massive and unwieldy document. And again, some really great work being done to sort that out. So to support all of these goals, we have already been approached by members of the supply chain and have been in discussion with them and our client partners about developing and leading on a potential bid to this fund. And they have been looking at a living lab, what's been called as a living lab demonstrator, essentially a pilot project, aiming to tackle the systemic issues that obstruct use, integration and adoption of innovations. It will aim, if successful, to bring together a collection of demonstrators actually across the three areas that I've described. Again, we have been working with I3P and the Construction Innovation Hub to sort of make sure that the activities are aligned and are potentially able to give kind of value. Aiming for, obviously, if successful, a pilot would drive more cultural change across government. And, from my perspective, as a good civil servant, that actually has to then feed into, as I mentioned earlier, our ability to develop really, really robust business cases that support innovation. So really early stages in those conversations, but I just wanted to flag that to you, that some discussions have been taking place, and if people were interested in talking to us or to those potential leaders of the bid a bit more, then please come and make yourselves known to me. Otherwise, you might want to join in, or you might want to develop something synergistic, but it would be useful to have that conversation. Since I'm probably going on slightly long, so just final-ish slide, yes, final slide. It really, again, just to make the point about the business processes, we are committed to reducing the barriers to innovation through the processes that we put out across government. Again, really interested, and we've got a new set of very keen ministers who are very interested in this, actually, looking at our commercial strategies and how they may or may not be able to support innovation. So we'll be holding a workshop on that in the next couple of weeks. The efficiency strategy will also be putting together a challenge function. So this is about partners getting together and kind of doing a bit of a ties collective challenge on projects that are in their early stages. So critical friend sort of function, as well as adopting the IPA's project initiation route map. Please, I think I've probably talked a little too long now, so I'm going to shut up. But yeah, there's a lot that's going on. I'm really excited about it. We would really love to work with you on promoting and making some of this stuff come to life. So cash and collaboration are the two C's. Really good thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. So what I'm going to do now, excuse me, what I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about the competition. Hopefully you've all been online and read the briefs. Yes, you've all been online, read good. Yes, you all have done that, thank you. So what I'm going to do now is just talk very quickly through those briefs and through some of the other activities and link together what you've just heard. Now, before you all registered for this session, you all went on Eventbrite and you were asked, have you read the industrial strategy, the construction sector deal? Have you read the TIP strategies? There's a good reason for that, and you've just heard it. Now, all of these things are linked. Our program, the Transforming Construction Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund program, is linked to the sector deal. It is linked to the Transforming Infrastructure Performance Strategy and the TIE strategy. It's the same group of people. We've been working together since 2015 to 2016 with the CLC, with BAYS, with the IPA, all the departments working together to transform this. So this is the culmination that you get now of these competitions is at the end of a long path of getting this industry where it needs to be. So my name is Simon Hart. I'm Head of Construction for Innovate UK, working on the Transforming Construction programme. The two competitions I'm going to mainly talk about now are the ones there in the Innovate UK ones. So there's the £10 million R&D competition and the £26 million demonstrator. I'm going to very quickly also cover two other items that you're going to be interested in. One of them, on the left-hand side, the Transforming Construction Network Plus. Network Plus is an organisation, it's a group of organisations set up by us to drive some of the research networking. They have a competition of small projects that's going to be available 19th of September, that launches. And then right on the other side over there, the Construction Innovation Hub. You're going to hear a little bit more about their platform design competition. Now, where that fits along this line, so the left-hand side, group of scientists there doing some early stage research. Okay, and right on the other side over there, you've got something going into very near or mass production. Okay, along that line of going from research through to commercialization, that's approximately where those competitions sit. So the R&D competition, the £10 million one, that sits on the development cycle. The demonstrator is really where you've got something you want to go and prove out. And the platform design competition that you're going to hear from the Construction Innovation Hub, that's really where you've got something that's very near market ready or is market ready, you're just ready to go and get on with it. So the two competitions, you go on our website, that's what it looks like. It's on the Go to the Innovate UK website. If you can't find the competitions, you're probably in the wrong room. Those are the two competitions that you've got up there. All the details, everything you need to know is on that website. And I genuinely mean that. Everything you need to know is on that website. Follow the links, read everything. Follow the links through on each of those tabs, on eligibility, scope, dates, how to apply, supporting information. Everything you need to know is on that website, okay? So there's two competitions in total. We have the £10 million collaborative R&D, the £26 million demonstration fund. They both open. They opened, went live on our website on the 5th of August, opened on the 28th. The demonstrator closes 1 week after the CR&D. That's just to give our competitions team a little bit of a break in between the two. And the projects are expected to start 1st of April 2020. Now, there's a key thing here, which is around the spending profile. It is very heavily loaded into the 20 to 21 financial year, with a tail off into the final financial year. So we have to stick within that spending profile. That's the spending profile we get given by government. That means projects that can fit that spending profile are more likely to get through the ones that don't. So if you come to us with a proposal that doesn't fit the spending profile, you're not going to get funded. Okay? So basic bit of advice, make sure your project fits that spending profile, please. So first one, the £10 million one, Transforming UK Construction. Round 2, MMC, Digital and Whole Life Performance. Snappy title, it's the best we've come up with at the time. Your project must focus on one or more of the following themes. I'm not going to read those out, but there's a few phrases in there that you probably have heard earlier on this morning. For example, business models, procurement, analytic, benchmarking and metrics. Okay, see the link between these things? Financial assurance, warranty and lending products. If we're trying to move to a world of MMC, then we need the financial products that are going to support that transition. We are looking around those themes. We're going to try to fund a portfolio of projects around those themes. So that means that basically what we want to end up with is in 3 years' time, a successful group of R&D projects that we can really showcase and tell the world about that fit all of these different categories, and a good mix across each of them. The project's total eligible costs, okay? Read up on what that actually means, because lots of people get it wrong. Total eligible costs must be between 150,000 and 1.5 million. Okay, that's the MMC project. That's the R&D project, the R&D competition. But there's also the demonstrator competition. Now, the demonstrator we're looking for the application of approaches deployed at scale to improve all aspects of a built asset's life cycle. That includes validations of new business models, digital approaches, design, construction and management, advancements in MMC, approaches to whole life performance of a building or assets. Have a good read through that one. It's a little bit more complicated than the R&D competition. And because of the value of it and the spending profile, it obviously suits things that are probably going to be quite large scale demonstrators, and that's really what we want to see. But again, with all of these, you can probably recall from Sam's presentation, at the end of Sam's slides, Sam put up a series of benefits from the program that our program is tracked and measured against. So our program, and this is a standard way of government does its assessments of programs, all of the outputs of our program, all of the knock-on economic benefits of our program gets measured and tracked. So we want to make sure that all of the successful projects from these help us to deliver our benefits back to the economy. So all of this, again, is linked through. And those benefits were developed from the business case, which comes from the industrial strategy, from the sector deal, from the tip and tie strategy. So all this stuff is linked together. So we're really looking to fund a really good portfolio of projects. So as part of that, and this applies to both the competitions, we want to see how your project's going to help some of those sector commitments. And the reason is that sector deal is a deal between government and industry. And it basically says, government says, we're going to give you this money if you do that. So, if we don't do that, then the government's not going to give us any more money. So in 3 years' time, when everyone's complaining the construction industry is not getting any funding, and we can point to say, well, you didn't deliver what we were trying to do, we don't want to be in that situation. We want to make sure that every single thing that we fund is going to deliver some of those commitments, because that's the best way of us showing the impact, the best way of us seeking future funding. So we're going to welcome projects that are submitted by members of I3P, the Construction Leadership Council and its working groups, and projects that involve government departments or ALBs, arm's length bodies, detailed in the tip or ties strategy. ALBs, people like Network Rail, TfL. So we're going to welcome bids that include those. So get talking to them. A lot are in the room today here. The KTN can help you connect. We can help you connect to them. But this is really the driving engine behind it. This is again the government commitments through the tip and tie strategies, matched by industry commitments. So get talking to them about your projects. Where applicable, projects should use Project 13 and the Gemini principles. Who knows what Project 13 is? Okay, that's pretty good. Good. Gemini principles? Okay, so if you don't know what they are, go and look them up. They may not be applicable to your project, but if it is, please mention it. Because bear in mind, our assessment team, the people that are going to be assessing and scoring your bids, have been told to look out for this stuff. Okay? So bear that in mind. We want to be able to see, basically this is stuff that's been paid for, delivered by previous funding. We want to see it being utilised, develop that ecosystem, keep building upon it. Now also, projects are expected to work with and share information, metrics and KPIs with program stakeholders, including Frontier Economics. Who knows who they are? Okay, Frontier Economics are an economic evaluation company that we have engaged as part of our program to measure our program. Again, it's a standard way of doing these things inside government funding cycles. You have to have an economic evaluator to assess how successful your program is. Frontier Economics are our one. They're really engaged with this challenge, but they're also looking for examples of real successes that they can measure as part of the program. Okay, and when we also say so to share information, metrics and KPIs, you already probably saw some of that information earlier on about benchmarking, KPIs, metrics. Some of you may know the Construction Leadership Council's metrics working group. We're really looking to drive some of these projects into those metrics working groups. So in other words, provide back to the industry some real good metrics that show how we are having an impact, so how we are improving. We'd also quite like to see some of the projects, suitable projects, that get turned into case studies that we can showcase back to the industry through the Construction Leadership Council. So some really, really good opportunities there. So competition guidance, this is standard stuff. If you go on our website, this is all standard stuff. This is not any different to any other competition, but we often get asked about that. Okay, so the top box up there is the amount of money you can claim back against a project and against the different categories of company size and the type of research that you are doing. So in other words, the way this is state aid driven, basically it means that the larger the company and the closer to market you get, the less you can claim back. So be aware of that, because this is something that comes up a lot. You can find this link through the competition page. It'll take you through to the funding rules and rates, but make sure you're aware of that before you start putting your bid together, because a lot of this is about how you can actually claim back the funding. Projects, so I mentioned that on expecting to work with the wider ecosystem. Significant industry investment is expected as part of the sector deal. So actually the sector deal, £170 million of government money matched against £250 million of industry money. So again, our assessors are looking out for other sources of funding that each project is going to bring. So if you're bringing a lot of investment from another company, from another organisation, that's the sort of things they want to see, crowding in of money. So it's not just about our money is a catalyst. You want to bring in that additional funding, that investment, that commitment to real transformation in the industry. Last one on there, a little bit of a new rule. Previous winners who failed to exploit their projects will not be eligible for future funding. That was a rule brought in a couple of years ago by Innovate UK. Detail of that is on the website. It applies to most of our new competitions. So very quickly, just some common issues. We're going to do a bit of a Q&A after this. There's some common issues. Non-collaborative projects. The projects have to be collaborative. That means more than one person, more than one company applying. Okay, single applicants, non-collaborative projects, not eligible. Projects that are outside of funding limits, the project costs, make sure you check out what your eligible costs are. Projects that are outside of funding limits, they'll get rejected straight away. Projects that are out of scope, again, rejected straight away. And projects that miss the deadline. Amazing how many times this happens, even some really, really significant bids, really significant organisations. The deadline is always midday on the day of the competition closing. If you submit it a minute past, sorry, you missed it, okay? I have to say this every time, because it happens every time. We always get complaints about 5 minutes past midday. My application didn't go through. Well, sorry, it didn't. Everyone else's did. They put it in before. Don't miss the deadline. Please don't miss the deadline. That also applies. If you're really looking for some support from us, please don't come to us a week before the competition closes and ask us for support. Okay, get in early. We're going to be really busy. There's a great team. There's about 10 people in this room who can all help you with bids, with programs, with getting advice. But don't leave it too late. We've had a huge interest in this competition. It's going to get really busy. Okay, please don't leave it late. If you're looking for advice, guidance, things that are going to really help your bid, and things that we're looking for, this is your essential reading list. Okay? Make sure you've read all these. So that's the TIP strategy, the ties strategy, the construction sector deal, the MMC framework document that MHCLG produced. So that one over there, the Modern Method Construction Working Group Developing a Definition Framework, that's the one that's defined these new categories of MMC. Have a read of that. If you fit one of those categories, tell us about it. Tell us which one it is. Gemini Principles and Project 13. All of these groups on here, particularly Gemini, Centre for Digital Built Britain, who's done Gemini, and Project 13. There's an email address on their website. They are ready to receive inquiries from you. Okay, if you need to know something, please contact them. Last slides from me, essential support. So where do you get support from? The KTN, Innovate UK's KTN, fantastic organisation of help, assistance for bids, lots of advice they can help you with, but again, don't leave it last minute, please. The I3P, the Construction Leadership Council, Construction Innovation Hub, you'll hear from them, and the Active Building Centre, you'll hear from them later. Transforming Construction Network Plus, again, they've got that programme called coming out, but they're also there because they've got lots of academic partners who are potentially interested in projects and getting involved in projects. CPNI, we are looking for people who consider cybersecurity as part of their programme. If you don't consider cybersecurity and we think it's something you missed, you will not get that score. Okay, CPNI are also on hand. If you've got questions about security mindedness for your project, please talk to them. And lastly, Centre for Digital Built Britain, part of the Construction Innovation Hub, but if you're looking for something particularly around Gemini principles, Digital Frameworks Task Group, please get in contact with them. They are there to help you with your bid. And also, I would stress this as well. If you're coming in with a bid that you think is broadly aligned to one of these areas, go and talk to them, please. We want to see collaboration in this. We don't want to see competing things against some of the things that have already been funded. So we don't want to see someone coming up with a new version of the Gemini principles. Okay, that's not what this funding is for. This is crowding in. Collaborate, please. Work with what's funded already. This is provided to help you with your bids. So, as I also mentioned, that it wasn't just about our funding. There's also a couple of things you're going to be interested in. The platform design open call run by the Construction Innovation Hub. You're going to hear about this later on from Keith, who's down here. This is an open call that they are running now. Open and close dates, it's already opened, close date 31st of October. Go on their website, there's a whole microsite set up for this. You can get in contact, you can register, go and find out more. You'll hear more about it later. The Network Plus Small Projects Competition, again, this is researchers only. Okay, so it has to be led by researchers. You can collaborate with them, but it has to be researchers only. It's an academic one. Again, go on the UCL Network Plus website. It's a fantastic site. They've got a really great webinar they did a few weeks ago. Really great place to go and look. Go and find out some more information about that. Launches on the 19th of September. Sign up, find out when it's happening, go along to their events. They're a really good organisation. But there's a couple of others as well. Some of the eagle-eyed amongst you probably saw this. This popped up a couple of days ago from our colleagues in the transport team. This is not our programme. This is Network Rail SBRI. This is Network Rail's own funding. Okay, these have just gone live. So if you're looking through our programme, you think maybe that's not quite suitable, have a look at these. These are SBRI. These are procurement, 100% funding. So go and have a look at those, please. There's two out there. Innovation in Rail Security Surveillance Analytics and Innovation in Automated Tunnel Examination. So go and have a look at those, because they may also be applicable to some of your colleagues in your own company. Go have a look at those as well, please. And then lastly, we've got the KTN Innovation Exchange. These have just gone live as well. There's three potential projects in there that might be of interest to you if you're in this industry. Now these are challenges that have been put forward by private sector companies. The KTN are working to try to help connect innovative ideas to those companies. If you've got a great innovative idea that could solve one of these challenges, you can walk in the door. KTN will help you do that. You could be able to go and solve one of these challenges for one of those organisations that has put out these. So go and have a look at that. There's the KTN Innovation Exchange website. All the details are on there. KTN are here today who can help as well if you're looking for some information about that. Finally, any questions you've got really around technical questions around the competition, maybe technical questions around the scope, things that are not answered through the normal website. You can always go onto our website, connect to the customer support service. Customer support services comes through to us, it's tracked, it's managed to make sure you get the response within a certain time. Do that. If you've got something really technical that doesn't get answered through the normal process, we're on hand. It comes through to me and my team, and we make sure we answer those. Okay, that's a lot from me. We're going to do a quick Q&A before we go and have a break. Any questions that you think you've got that are good for the audience to hear, come and ask them now. Everything else, come and catch us in the break. Mark?
Yeah, we've got up some more microphones.
Excellent.
Catherine, would you like to join us as well? Is there questions for you as well? And Sam, if you want to as well, yeah. So we've now got a Q&A session. We've managed to find some more microphones. So my colleagues, Natasha and Louise, will be walking around with the microphones. And we've got our first one. You ready to go?
University College London. I saw in the brief a sentence, you are strongly advised to liaise with the Construction Innovation Hub and or the Active Building Centre before submitting an application. In practical terms, what does liaise mean? Do you need a letter where they sign off the proposal? Do you need
Sorry, Keith.
do you need meeting notes?
We'll bring Keith up as well, so
Okay.
he can, from the Construction Innovation Hub. Please talk to them, okay, to make sure, because it could be that they have got a similar project that you can work with. It could be they've got a technology that you can work with, something that they can assist you with. Okay, so talk to them. What we're trying to do here is to encourage continued investment in the whole ecosystem that's been provided. So just make sure that you've checked out with them to see if there's something that they can do to support you. And that's really what it is, because they are there to support you. Keith, do you want to add some more on that? They should be on.
Should be live.
Yeah, I think that's really want to hear from people, because there's a lot of fantastic ideas and thoughts out there of how both collaborative R&D projects and demonstrator projects may be brought forward. Now, as Simon said and Sam said and Catherine have all said, there's a heavily integrated programme of work that's been happening across government, across BAYS, across UKRI, Innovate UK, the whole system. So there's a lot of work already going, and it may be by speaking to the Active Building Centre, to Network Plus, to us, there may be something that helps you understand how better to align what your thinking may be, or whether that's saying, well, actually that's already been funded and that's complete, or that's publishing next week, so don't push down that path. But what we think we know is about 1% of the information out there. So there's an awful lot we hope to get from people in this room and people who are going to the other sessions that will help shape and drive the programme to deliver those impacts and outcomes that we all want.
Okay, thank you. Next question. There's a lady over there in the... Not too good with colours, but...
Hello. I have two questions, actually. One is, what is your definition of an ecosystem? And secondly, in terms of all of the government intents, or the research, or the publications, is there actually a digital map of that anywhere? And if not, why not?
So perhaps the first one for Simon and the second one for Catherine. Would you like to comment on that, Catherine? So ecosystem.
Okay, so the ecosystem is is everything that's funded under the challenge and the supporting activity that's going on in various government departments. So it's the Transforming Construction Challenge, which exists as, I think there was a slide that Sam showed earlier. It's 72 million that goes to Construction Innovation Hub, 36 for Active Building Centre, and the remainder, someone will catch me, it's 56? I think so. That goes to the R&D funding that we've already, so that we're funding now, part of this competition and the ones that we funded last year. Regards to a digital map, good. Yeah, Keith. Yeah.
Should there be a digital map? Absolutely. Is there one? No, there's 4. That's half of the problem at the moment. I am aware of 4 people or 4 organisations that are trying to map everything that's happening. What we're trying to do is map the mappers at the moment, and I think it'd be really helpful as part of the competition process if we can publish that ecosystem. So that isn't just the reports. So that's things like themes. So who is it who's looking at procurement or business cases, or who is it that's looking at skills or safety, to make sure people understand where they can look to see what the latest information or what the active work streams are. One of the challenges without that map in place, without that ecosystem being published, is people start researching or developing things that are already happening. So we start to do a lot of re-research, which is unnecessary. So getting that out is going to be a really important part to help people understand how to shape their bids.
Can I add as well? So I also used the word ecosystem, but I used it in relation to our transport infrastructure efficiency strategy, working groups and structures, and that is published online in our annual report.
Okay, any more from the room? So we had 2 go up simultaneously then, so one and then the other.
Hi, Richard McWilliams from Turner and Townsend. I currently run 2 retrofit programs for the Mayor of London, zero carbon programs. And I believe retrofit is nominally out of scope for the program. However, it gets a bit, when you get into it, it gets quite blurred, really, when the products, processes, systems and supplier capability required to address that market. So I just wanted to ask, has there been any explicit delineation of the scope between new build and retrofit?
What I'd say on that is there are a lot of things that are going to sort of equally benefit new build and retrofit. That's absolutely fine. If something is not really going to contribute much to the new build part of the industry, but only retrofit, then we would regard that as out of scope. We're interested in retrofit, but that is the brief that we've got. That's that's the definition of the program that I'm running. But I think that a lot of things will be pretty much equally applicable to new build and retrofit, and that's fine.
So benefit of doubt might be given?
Say again?
Benefit of doubt might be given on scope eligibility?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the benefits track, the list of benefits that I put up, that probably gives you a bit of guidance as to what would be in scope and what wouldn't be.
Thank you.
Okay, gentleman with the grey jumper then. There, Louise. Thank you.
Thank you. I suspect you might be covering this in later sessions, but as an SME who is applying probably alongside Homes England and possibly one of the local economic partnerships under this call, if they are technically government organisations or arm's length bodies, and they are willing to contribute into the project to cover the remaining 30% of our costs, is that an eligible funding stream for us?
That's a good question. I think it is. Can
I have that in writing?
That's the sort of technical one I would actually recommend you send into the customer support for us to give you a proper answer, because you can give us a breakdown of what you think the costs are going to come in as. But I think it is off the top of my head, but official answer would be via a customer support request. Okay.
Any more questions in the room? If not, is there? Yeah. This gentleman down the front, and then Matt. Have you got anything online that you want to particularly raise? Right. Okay.
Hi, Clyde Godwin from Solvershaw. Do you not think that by restricting it to matched funding, you might be missing out on some great technology that just can't find a partner?
So I wouldn't say we're 100% restricting it. We've got to take a portfolio view of the program, of the projects that go through to assessment. So it really depends on which competition you're looking at doing. Certainly the Demonstrators got more of an emphasis on matched funding or invested funding, funding that is an additional to what our funding brings. Ultimately, our funding is about collaboration. It is really there as a catalyst. And unless you're doing fundamental research and you're a very small SME, you're never going to get 100% funding from our type of activity. That's not the way this type of government grant funding works. It is always about catalysing, bringing something extra. So I would say it really depends on the project and how well it stands out on its own. One of the things we're always looking for is the long-term commercial viability and the route to market for certain ideas as well. We want to see how you can turn this into the next big thing, how it's going to commercialise. Innovate UK funding is always business funding. We're always there to try to grow the economy. Ultimately, that's the way we work. So it kind of depends on it. It depends which one you go for, and it depends what the project's actually doing. But we're always going to take a portfolio view to that.
Natasha, there's a lady just to the right of you. Yeah.
Hello. Do you have any restrictions in to whom to associate? For example, do you really need to have somebody from academia, somebody, a client, or there are no restrictions?
Actually, we don't. Some of the best projects that have succeeded in the past have been a mix of SME, academic, and client. Having a strong consortia is always a good route to success. And this is not just construction competitions, this is across everything. Some of the most successful competition winners and projects have always been collaborative, and it's why we always push that.
Can I just add on for the demonstrator projects, clearly if you come up with a demonstrator proposal that doesn't have the backing of the client, this competition is not going to allow us to impose your solution on them. So clearly having a client on board for the demonstrator projects is an absolute prerequisite.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, there any more burning questions? We are actually coming up to the break now, but if there's one more burning question, we'll take that, but if not, no. So if we can thank our speakers then and for their session this morning. And I now invite you all to take a break for 30 minutes. We will come back promptly for 11:50. There are refreshments back upstairs where you registered this morning, so please do make use of those, or you'll Right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming back. Right, thank you for coming back on time. Apologies for those of you who are feeling the chill a bit in here. That's architects for you. I didn't fully understand that cold air falls to the bottom of the building, so we have asked if we can make it a bit warmer, but I don't think there's much more we can do at this stage. So we move on now to the next portion of our presentations this morning. So now we will hear from Innovate UK's competitions team on the process of making and submitting an application. So it's all over to you. You have this nice large one that you won't lose.
Yes, I'm not quite as tall. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name's Lydia. I'm a portfolio manager for Innovate, and along with my colleague Julie, we're going to take you through the process for applying for this competition. So this is the agenda. We'll go through eligibility, the innovation funding service, which is the platform we use, application finances, academic partners, submitting your application assessment, project setup, and then any questions you might have at the end. Okay, so the eligibility criteria. The CR&D stream does allow resubmissions, but the demonstrator stream does not. Up here you can see the definition of a resubmission is an application that Innovate UK judges as not materially different from one you've submitted before, but it can be updated based on assessors' feedback. Not a resubmission is if you were unsuccessful previously, so if it has not been assessed, if you were ineligible, it has to be materially different and it must fit with the scope of this competition. So if you have used one before, it must fit the scope of this new competition. Project duration cannot exceed 24 months under any circumstances. Academic institutions cannot lead or work alone. You can see the project costs for demonstrators and CR&D here. And the projects need to start by the 1st of April 2020 and end by the 31st of March 2022. So the types of organizations we fund. The lead partner needs to be a business of any size. We also fund research organizations, universities, non-profit distributing research and tech organizations, RTOs, including catapults, public sector research and research council institutes. You must be based in the UK, and you need to check out the EU definition of a business, whether you are small, medium. The amount of funding you receive will depend on which of these categories you fit into. Eligibility for state aid. So in order to be eligible for state aid, you must pass the undertaking in difficulty test. This only applies to limited liability companies that are more than 3 years old. If you have a parent company, the test can be performed on your parent or holding company. You need to make sure that your business is eligible before you submit an application. If you're successful, we'll apply this test as part of our viability checks in project setup. If you're unsure whether you're eligible to receive state aid, please seek legal advice. There's more information on our website, and you can contact our support team if you have any questions. Participation rules. So, at least 70% of the total eligible project costs must be incurred by a business. If you have an academic or RTO in the consortium, the maximum level of project costs is 30%. If there is more than one, they share this 30% between them. Research organisations are not able to lead in this competition, but they can partner in as many applications as they wish. There must be evidence of genuine collaboration. You'll need to explain in your application how all parties will contribute to this and how they will benefit from the collaboration. Making more than one application. A business can be involved in up to 3 applications, but only lead on one. You need to contact Innovate UK if you have any questions or queries about this. Innovation Leads will consider your application a resubmission, as we said before, if it's not materially different from a previous application. If you currently have outstanding final claims or an independent accountant report on a live Innovate UK project, you cannot be eligible for grant funding or lead as a lead or as a partner. So if this is still outstanding, if you currently have funding from a live competition and it's running through, that's fine. If you have these outstanding, then you cannot claim more funding. If you applied to a previous competition as the lead or sole company and you were funded and you didn't make a substantial effort to exploit, we will also not award more funding to you. These are your key dates again. Please note that some are different from the Demonstrator and the CR&D funds. It's important to note that the submission deadline is noon on the dot, or IFS automatically closes at 12:01. You cannot submit. If you have any technical problems, any upload issues, please get in contact with us before the deadline so we can assist you, because at 5 to 12, everybody's submitting. So the competition is run on the Innovation Funding Service, or IFS. When you click Apply on the competition webpage, you'll be directed here. You can use the keyword search to find the competition you're interested in. Click the title. This opens the competition. Once you click on the competition, you will see a tabbed view. You'll see eligibility, scope, key dates, information, and how to apply. Please read all of this thoroughly. There's plenty of guidance there. And when you're ready, you click Start New Application. If you have already applied for competitions with Innovate, you can just log in using your details. If not, you need to create an account. So you can use Companies House to look up your organisation, then you don't have to type in the name and address. If you're not on Companies House, you will have to enter this manually. We advise research organisations and academics manually enter your information so you're not listed as a business and your funding will reflect this. So project details. Application team. Make sure your research category is correct here, as this is used to create your grant value. Project summary. Highlight the need or challenge, approach and innovation and the outcomes. Key to setting the scene for the assessors, it gives them an overview of your vision. The public description is published if your project is successful. Please be aware of confidentiality issues here. And finally, scope. It's important your project fits within the scope to receive funding. Use this field to justify how your project fits the scope for assessors. If you're unsure as to whether or not your application is in scope, please do get in contact with us. There are 10 questions covering 3 key areas, which I'll run through in a little bit more detail. All the guidance can be found under How to Apply, and all the breakdown of each question is on the How to Apply tab. You will see there are appendices on 2, 3, 7, and 8. They are limited to 1 megabyte in size. So I'm going to hand over to Julie, who's going to go through all the application finances with you.
Thanks, Lydia. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so now we're going to look at the eligible costs that you're able to claim for when putting together your application. So here we have labour costs. So here we would like you to enter the role within the project, the gross annual salary, the number of staff, and the days to be spent on the project. It will then automatically calculate the total costs. If you do have multiple people in the same role on the same average salary, enter this in the role within project field. If you have an employee who is part-time, you should enter their costs as full-time equivalent. You can then adjust the working days per year from the default if this is different for your project. Please note that dividends, bonuses, non-productive time and contingency cannot be included within your labour costs as they are ineligible. When making grant claims against labour costs, actual cost claim must be supported with timesheets. Okay, overheads. We define overheads as administrative costs and operational expenses incurred directly as a result of the project. These should include additional costs for administrative staff, general IT, rent and utilities. You can select from the three options you can see on the screen how you would like your overheads calculated. So we have there a no overheads or 20%. If you click 20%, it will just auto-calculate in all the costs that you actually put in. Or if you want to actually do it yourself, you click the calculate overheads. So just a quick definition between the two. We class indirect overheads as those costs associated with back office functions such as finance and HR, whose primary function is there to support the running of the business. They can only claim a portion of their time, and their work needs to be additional to the delivery of the project, not business as usual. Typically, these costs are not directly related to a particular product or service production. Direct overheads are costs associated with staff working directly on the project, and that could include laptops, desks and office facilities. We supply a simple form into which you can list out each type of the direct overhead together with a methodology or the basis of apportionment to the particular project, and again these overheads would not be incurred if the project does not happen. Okay, material costs. Enter and describe what material costs you intend to use on the project, the volume and the cost. The materials listed must be project specific. Please provide as much information as possible, because just putting 50,000 consumables isn't enough information. And when our project, hopefully you are all successful, and when our project finance team start looking at eligibility and looking into all your costs, they would actually want to drill down into that information. So be as specific and give as much detail as you possibly can, which again will stop all the queries coming backwards and forwards and would help you, get on your way to starting your project a lot earlier. Any items you would usually depreciate, this must be done as per your company's policy and should be listed in capital usage. Materials supplied by associated companies or subcontracted from other consortium members, they must be listed at cost, excluding any profit element or margin. Okay, capital usage. Here you'll need to describe how you'll be using the equipment, whether it is new or existing, the new purchase cost, how long you're depreciating it over, and the residual value at the end. These calculations will need to be in line with your accounting practices. Sorry about that. Subcontractors. If the cost is going to be significant, then you need to justify who, why and what you need them for. Both here and in your application form, it's important you justify the use of subcontractors within your application, especially those that are non-UK based, as the assessors do not see the level of financial detail they only see in the project cost. So you can use subcontractors, but we would ask the question of why you're using them. And if you're going overseas, we would ask why the skill and the knowledge isn't here in the UK. So you would need to justify your reasons why you are going abroad if that's what you want to do. Again, if you do use a parent or sister company, you have to ensure that you list at cost and do not include any profit. Okay, travel and subsistence. Here you would have to include things such as any essential meetings that happened during the meeting. You cannot include any sales or marketing activity, as this is ineligible. Travel costs must be economy travel only. You should be prepared to provide a breakdown of these costs if the project finance reviewer asks for more detail. For example, they might want you to split a trip into its subsistence, accommodation and travel components. Other costs. Please check the finance guide for what costs can actually be included here, and the link is available on the website. It can take you straight through to the project finance costs, and it will clearly list all those items. If you are unsure, please don't hesitate to contact our customer services support. But some of the costs that don't fit the categories can be training, directly attributed to the project. It can be licensing new technologies or patent filing for SMEs. Okay, but again, please do ensure that there's no double counting and that all the costs you put in there are justified, because we will have project finance reviewers looking through all the figures. Okay. As we've stated before, the level of funding awarded will depend upon the type of organisation and the type of research that you are undertaking in the project, and IFS will calculate the grant based on the answers that you input. A little bit about that question, really, the funding on the type of organisation. So just to be really, really clear, if you are a business, so it's micro is 70%, medium 60, 50 is large. That's doing technical or industrial research. For experimental development, because it's slightly closer to market, small and medium will get 45% funding. Micro and small, I should say, 45, medium 35, and large 25. For research organisations, universities, they get 100%, but that's 80% of their full economic cost. Other research organisations can claim 100% of their cost, but the caveat is the research organisations must be non-profit distributing and must disseminate their project results and explain in the application form how they're actually going to do this. For public sector organisations or charities, they are funded at 100%, but again, they must be performing research activity and disseminate the project results and explain in the application form how this will be done. Okay, academic partners. If any of you have any academic partners in your consortium, they will need to complete a JES form. Innovate UK do not look after the JES form system, so any academics that you do have in your consortium should be fully aware of this system. They've used it before, so they're completely confident. The form validates the costs for us. So they need to go in and put the information and then provide us with a form so that we've got all the information. Okay, when they've completed their JES form, the academics will need to include their unique reference number on IFS and input their figures. They have to ensure the figures that they provide are accurate. So the figures that are input into IFS are exactly the same as a JES form. A lot of the time, we do have a discrepancy, and it must be the 80% full economic cost that needs to go in there. Again, the forms must be with council status and uploaded into IFS as a document. But all the guidance is on IFS, and it can talk you through that the whole way along. They must also ensure academics complete the justification of resources and the pathways to impact on the JES form, as this is the information that the assessors will look for. Any questions on the JES, if yourselves get any questions on it, we've put some helplines, email addresses and phone numbers there to give them a call. Because like I say, Innovate UK don't actually look after the JES system themselves, so we can't provide any support. Okay, submitting your application. This is a summary of the project costs available to all the organisations in the project. You'll not be able to see a breakdown of anyone else's costs. So although you'll see the various partners, you'll just see the overview of the costs. You won't be able to go in and actually have a look at all the other breakdown in there. This is also what the assessors see. We've ringed there because, just to make this very, very clear, total project costs, the competition will have a minimum and a maximum total project cost. That is what you're looking for. You're not looking for the amount of grant funded. So we're not, that figure should not match, that has to match the amount of total project costs that you're allowed for this competition. Please don't get that confused with the amount of grant funding that you're applying for. That causes a lot of issues for us. Okay, for collaborative applications, IFS will highlight to the lead applicant any partners who have outstanding finances. They haven't got them complete, as you can see there. All finances must be included in the application before the lead applicant can submit. So if one of your applicants, one of your partners hasn't finished all their finances before the submit date, you're in trouble. So this is where you need to keep watching, keep reviewing all the time just to see and give them a little nudge to make sure they complete that. It's also where you check your research participation costs are within the required limits. For this competition, as we've said there, the research organisational costs should be no more than 30% of the total project costs. Although IFS will validate as such, if you put through higher costs than that, it will still allow you to put the application through, basically. A little reminder, a little pop-up box will come up and say, these are above the research participation, could you have another look at it? But if you dismiss that and carry on, it will allow you to put that application through. So it is for you guys just to double check that. Right, this is a really interesting slide. I'm sure you've all seen it before. This shows the number of applicants submitting their proposals each hour up to the noon deadline. As you can see, the majority of applicants leave it to the last minute, and it literally is minute. We sit in the office and we refresh, and we can see them coming through every minute. Please, please don't leave it to the last minute. You can have glitches, you can have problems, all sorts. So if anything, it closes at noon. On the day before if you can, or in the morning, please start submitting. Submit your applications. If you do get an issue, then you can come straight through to us and we can help you as quickly as possible, which will allow that application to get through. So please, please, please. Okay, assessment. The application is assessed. This involves a scope check by the sector and the innovation team, and then it is reviewed by 5 independent assessors. Our assessors are drawn from academia and industry. The feedback is then collated into a final score, and then interviews will be decided at that point if your competition or that stream has an interview. Assessors do tell us they want clarity, detail and justification. They want to see that the applicant has presented a viable opportunity for growth with an exciting innovation where public funding will make a real difference to developing their idea. So put as much as information as you possibly can. Make it engaging, make it interesting, so the assessors, as soon as they see it, wow, this is a great project. You really have to impress those assessors. Okay, everyone will get feedback, whether you are successful or not. So the lead will be notified when your feedback is available, and they go onto the dashboard, onto IFS, the actual dashboard, and they'll be able to get all the feedback for every single question from all the 5 assessors, and then they need to make sure that the rest of their consortium has that made available to them so they can view that. If you are successful, which hopefully you all are, and you're invited to an interview, we'll give you more information at that point. But I think here you have 30 minutes to present 30 slides. There will be up to a 60-minute Q&A session, and then you will have the opportunity to respond to assessor feedback before you actually get to that interview. And these are run regimentally as well. So you have 30 minutes to present, and it's all timed. So as soon as the 30 minutes up, that's it. Everyone has to stop talking, so that's something very important. Right, project setup for successful applicants. Putting your application in is only the first step of this process. You must start thinking about the project setup phase. This is where quite a lot of successful applicants can delay the start of their project, and it causes a lot of issues. We have project stages that need to be completed by all parties within 30 days. You can start your project setup as soon as you've been notified that you are successful, but again, projects need to actually start within 90 days. If you don't start within that 90-day window from the time that you have been notified, your funding could be withdrawn. I'm not saying it will be, but it could be withdrawn. We'll be looking at the reasons why you haven't progressed through that project setup. We have got 8 stages, like we said, project details, then you put in your project team, the documents you must provide, collaboration, a big one that causes a lot of issues. You need to think about that, start thinking about your collaboration even before you put your submission in. Start thinking about how you're going to get that signed through all the partners, because that can hold it up a lot. You're assigned a monitoring officer. We'll ask you for your bank details. We will be doing finance checks, viability checks and eligibility checks on your business, just to find out if you are who you say you are and you are able to deliver this project. You'll be needing to provide a spend profile, and then we will give you your grant offer letter, and that's when you need to review it, sign it, send it back, and then you're good to go. Okay, collaboration agreement, I think I just said that. We frequently see projects delayed from setup because the collaboration agreement is outstanding. So again, start thinking about this now. You won't be able to make your first claim without it, so it could hold up everything. So it's really, really important that you get that underway as soon as possible. Grant claims and payments, just a really quick one around that. You need to be aware of the fact that we pay our claims quarterly in arrears. If you're a small organisation, that can catch you out, so be really wise in how you manage your cash flow. All costs have to be started and incurred as such after the project setup. You can't, after you grant offer letter, you can't start working on your project before then. I mean, if you want to, you can, but if you can't ask for any cost back at all, so be wary of that. It must be when you've got your grant offer letter. That's the only time that you can officially start incurring costs on that project. Project change requests, we get this a lot. Things do change and we understand that completely, but when you put your application in and your application is assessed, we will take that forward. If you're successful on that application, that is what we're funding. If you have any dropouts, any partner changes, we cannot have any project change requests before the grant offer letter is sent out. So be really, really aware of that. Make sure that you've got the right people in the project, they've signed up to it, because we will not accept any changes. If afterwards things do change, things move, and we understand that, you can work with a monitoring officer and we can look at a project change request. But when you put your application in and it's assessed and you've won your funding, that is what we are going to take for your grant offer letter, and we will not accept any changes, I'm afraid. So if there are any changes, you will have to withdraw and then go into the next round of competition. Sounds all a bit, doesn't it? But yeah, it's just things to think about. If you do have any questions after today on the process, on the scope, finance, anything, please come through to our customer services team. Absolutely fantastic team there, Monday to Friday. They will forward the question to each of us at any of the departments, and they've got 2 days to answer, so they'll get you a really comprehensive answer to any of the questions that you have. So please do use those. That's it, I think. I'm finished. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, guys. You guys get quicker and quicker. They used to be an hour and a half, that session, so they do it very quickly. We've got time for a few questions now. Is that 4 questions or 4 minutes? Right. Okay, Matt, do you want to kick off then with two questions, and that gives you a chance to think about some in the room then?
Okay, so I have 2 questions that have come through on the web chat. The first one is that there are a lot of people in this sector that do not operate a PAYE. How do you operate, or how can a sole trader become involved as a collaboration partner?
Okay, yes, you can still apply. Your costs have to go into labour. Is this okay? Is this nice and clear? It is an eligible cost. Your costs will be shown in the labour tab. If you don't operate PAYE, you can have £22 an hour you can put in for 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. So 40 hours a week you can actually claim at £22 an hour. You just need to make sure that is shown in labour, and you need to provide timesheets. So our project finance team, when they're reviewing all your finances, they will ask you for some timesheets, so you need to make sure that they are available.
And just to clarify, that information is available online, isn't it? Is that in the
it is,
guidance?
yes. Project Finance, yes. On the How to Apply tab, you've got a link into Project Finance guidance. Please go into there, and it tells you all about what's eligible and how you fill in the Project Finance form. So, yeah, use that, and that information is there.
Brilliant. And then there's one other that came in online. Hopefully you can answer this. Is VAT eligible within these competitions?
No.
That's what I thought. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we turn it over to the room. Are there any questions in the room? Yeah, we've got one here, and then Adam down the front there. So, wait for the microphone, sorry, just so we can record it. Thank you.
Yes, so Jan Böhm, UCL again. You allow proposals for 24 months. But remember from the morning session, there's something about the funding allocation first year versus second year. Is that per bid, or is that just a portfolio that you have to adhere to, that you spend, I think it was 7% of the money in the 2021 and 30% of it in the 21-22? Or do I have to do that in my 24-month bid?
Matt, is that more one for you to answer?
Sorry, I was looking at the web chat and I missed it.
It was about funding split between the years.
If you apply for 2-year funding, I think in the morning session there was something about majority of the costs being allocated in 2021 and not in 21-22.
So
But is that your portfolio over all the project, or is that for my 24-month project?
So, well, it's a mixture of both. So for CR&D, we want the majority of costs in the first year. For demonstrators, it's greater than 90% of costs in the first year. And that's for each individual project. And we will balance the portfolio based on that spend. So every project has to be aware that the majority of the funding for CR&D is in year one, greater than 90% for demonstrators is in year one. If there is a project that you are struggling with, contact us. On any questions, please contact us, and we can help you with this. Because we can then work out what your project is, we can balance the portfolio. The more information that we know in advance is helpful.
It's a bit odd for universities, because if you hire a postdoc on the project, the costs are just equally spread over the 24 months. You can't just say,
okay,
70% of your salary is going to be in the first year.
I understand your question a bit more now. This is based on a project. So within a collaboration, the entire project, that's what the spend profile is. If an academic is split across the year, then it's up to the project to balance that within their entire portfolio, within that specific project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's a question for Adam. You still got a question? Yeah, down the front, Natasha. Adam in the middle there with the grey suit.
I just noticed on the assessment you mentioned an interview. Certainly my experience up to date is we haven't had interviews on Innovate UK projects.
It's a new one.
Is there going to be an interview, or is that only maybe?
You put your application in, the applications are assessed, and then the ones that are above the quality line, they're the ones that we generally take to interview. So if you do hit that quality line and you're in scope and everything's good, you will be contacted and asked if you'd like an interview, or asked to an interview. But it's just for I think it's just for the demonstrator stream.
Just for demonstrators.
Just for the demonstrator stream.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the chap behind, and then the lady just a bit further back.
Can I just clarify Nigel Banks, Milker Homes, can I clarify if the £26 million demonstrator project, is that £26 million of grant or of eligible costs? Because at £26 million on 10 projects at 25% funding, that's over the 8 million project cost per project.
I can see here for the total project cost for the demonstrator has to be between 500,000 and 8 million.
Yeah, and is the £26 million total funding, is that grant or
that's
total
the
project?
£26 million, excuse me, is the grant money available.
So it'd be a portfolio of projects, 15, 20 projects.
I thought it was limited to 10, or is that not the case?
Is it 10, sorry, on this one?
I mean, we're looking to fund around about 10 projects. It's very difficult. Yeah. This is like forecasting, isn't it? Nobody gets that right. We're looking to fund around about 10 large demonstrator projects, and we have a £26 million grant pot to fund that. We may end up with some more, we don't know. All depends on the quality of the applications and the type of applications we get. But the 26 million is grant available, not total projects. Thank you.
Okay, there's a lady just behind you, if you don't mind passing it back with the glasses, and then there was a lady here who had a question as well. I don't know if do you still have a question? Yeah? We'll come to you next.
Okay, hello there, Monica from Trek, a small SME. I just wanted to clarify as well. I think you mentioned that a small business can lead one project and a business can submit a maximum of 3 projects. So can a small business submit 2 projects for an application?
You can. I think it says you can lead on one. You can lead on one and collaborate in 2. By all means, you can be involved in 2 projects. But the caveat is, if you are successful, we would be looking to see whether you could deliver successfully on those 2 projects. So again, our project finance team will be looking at your viability and eligibility in being able to support those 2 projects.
Okay, but that means that you can submit 2 projects being a leader on both.
You can only lead on one, but then you can be a collaborator in another.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll make this lady's question the last one because I'm sorry we do need to move on, but the guys will be around if you do want to ask questions in the lunch break. So this is the last question.
Hi, I'd like to ask about notional costs. So if you're using expensive machinery with a partner, capital depreciation will not cover that, and really it's not financially viable for the partner to have that machinery out of action because it's not they're not going to be earning any profit on it. How do we claim that back?
I can't answer that, I'm afraid. That's something I can't answer. What I would suggest is you write that down and send that to our customer support service, and they'll make sure that it goes to our project finance team, and they can give you a really good answer on that.
Okay, thanks. Because I think otherwise we'd have to use them as a subcontractor, and that's not really in the way of things, is it? That's not ideal.
Okay.
No, sorry. Depreciation is a little bit outside my comfort zone. So if I can ask, or talk to me later and just give me your details, and I'll make sure that I get you an answer on that question as soon as possible when I get back to the office.
Okay, thank you.
So the customer support line is very good. They are very responsive. It isn't just a bottomless hole of questions. They do religiously answer those the questions and answer generally fairly promptly as well. You'll get a response back. Thank you, ladies, for presenting this morning and in good time, so thank them. So, we now move on to hear, again, for those of us who are here this morning, we'll hear again now from Keith Waller, the Programme Director for the Construction Innovation Hub.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk a little bit about who the Construction Innovation Hub are and what our programme is. I'm going to focus a little bit in more detail on our platform design programme that we launched at the end of last month. But as you would have heard this morning from Sam, from Catherine and Simon, these initiatives all integrate and join up. So hopefully you'll see how this fits into that ecosystem. And of course, this is not a funded call. We are using this event here, piggybacking on UKRI's events to help you understand, help us explain what our programme is and how that fits in with the UKRI programme. But let me just do a little bit of conditioning on the 15 minutes I've got, which you'll have some good news and bad news, I'm afraid. The bad news is we won't be giving you any money as part of our platform design programme. The good news is our selection and assessment criteria are very simple and not quite so cumbersome as required if you had public money. So, we are here to be a catalyst for the transformation of the construction sector. We are looking through our £72 million funding under the construction sector deal to see how we can embed manufacturing and digital technologies that help boost productivity, drive export, and improve the performance of our built environment. Not so we can do things cheaper, but how we can actually, through the investment that's made in the construction sector, in the infrastructure sector, in the built environment, can deliver wider social, economic, and environmental outcomes. So we are, as Sam said, made up of three partners, CDBB, BRE, and MTC. And really our themes line up very much with the construction sector deal and the work of the CLC around the digital manufacturing and performance strands that Sam referred to. And you can sort of see through our organisation, our three organisations, how perhaps the centres themselves are specialists in some of those areas. Obviously a lot of overlap on the individual activities within our programme, but you can see where we've got MTC leading on the manufacturing, CDBB on the digital strands, and the performance coming through from BRE. Sam put this slide up, and just if we work left to right, because it's quite confusing to look at one, but really our programme, the things that we are being paid to deliver, are those things on the left-hand side, where we have to develop manufacturing product family architectures, the quality systems, the standards, the rules, the information, the digital frameworks, and the security mindedness protocols that enable it to happen. But that alone will not deliver anything worthwhile. It won't deliver benefits unless we are able to work with government so they are more able to buy these more innovative solutions, and work with industry and our partners like ABC, like the suppliers in this room, so they can develop the capability and capacity and appetite to deliver that. And if we get those inputs right, we will start to deliver better performing assets. The outputs, if you like, that sit in the middle of the screen, where we were looking to deliver better performing assets, physical and their digital twin, that help us to measure and demonstrate improved through-life performance. And of course, we are doing that, really, to support the delivery of better social, economic and environmental outcomes from the £65 billion we spend just on infrastructure in this country each year. About £200 billion of construction, about a third of that is sitting just in infrastructure. So the question we should be asking ourselves as a nation is, if we are indeed investing £65 billion each year in our infrastructure, how can that support broader social, economic and environmental outcomes and deliver those impacts that are set out in the industrial strategy and form a key part of the construction sector deal. So that left-hand side, if you like, the things we are doing, manifest themselves in a technical programme, which I don't expect you to remember, because I can't, but broadly, we have got the digital manufacturing and performance strands, the activities that we are doing as part of our technical programme, that are informed by some of the research that's happening in terms of discovery of what data and systems and IP government holds, what we have in terms of capability digitally or in the supply chain, that will lead us to deliver a broader set of deployments around demonstrator projects. And I'll talk about one of those in line with our platform call. And of course, we can't deliver this alone, as I said before, so it's important we have an effective an active engagement programme. We're able to communicate what we're doing and why, and seek your input to our programme. And bearing in mind, of course, we are now talking about lots of digital, lots of data being part of the programme moving forward, making sure we've got the right levels of security mindedness built into our programme, so the right information is with the right people at the right time, not the opposite of that. So, if you like, we've heard from Sam on the left-hand side what are some of the challenges we need to address, and I'll flip through these. I think these slides will be made available anyway. We're expecting to deliver those outcomes through the work we're doing as part of our programme and as part of the broader work that's happening in the joined-up manner across the work through the wider industrial strategy, through the Construction Leadership Council, through the work that government is already doing. And of course, if you then think about our platform design programme, the thing that we launched on the 29th of August, essentially what we're looking to do is see how we can test and develop these principles, building on what IPA published with their call for evidence on the left-hand side of the screen last year, saying we want to try and investigate whether we can embed platform approaches to how we design and manufacture and assemble buildings of the future, how we can make sure we have greater levels of interoperability, how we can demonstrate and measure improved performance, how they support the delivery of those broader social, economic and environmental impacts that we wish to see through this programme. So that requires us then to start developing, if you like, a kit of parts of components and elements that fit together to form a building. We need to develop some rules about how they connect, both physically and, if you like, digitally, the data that passes across those interfaces. We need to work about how we can configure those buildings, how we can test and assure those things, how we can make them available and interoperable so that it doesn't just work on one building once, but works across multiple buildings in multiple sectors. So on the 29th of August, we launched what we've called our sandpit phase, essentially where we're looking to bring together people who may have solutions. And what we're going to do is provide a frame, if you like, a superstructure for which people can connect their products, their platforms, their assemblies to. And let me give you an example, if you like, we think about what we're trying to achieve through this programme. If we look at a normal building that's conventionally designed and conventionally built, we have a myriad of trades and interfaces on site at any one time. What we're trying to do is to see how, through this programme, we can develop manufactured, integrated solutions that can be designed, developed and manufactured away from the construction site. This is not going to apply to every single construction project in the UK from the day after tomorrow. This is about piloting an approach where we can demonstrate and measure the real benefits that come from an approach. How that supports not just boosting productivity or shortening the time on site or a disruption to the local community, but how that supports decarbonising the built environment, reducing the amount of waste we send to landfill, supporting local communities and local businesses and investment in jobs and skills and so on. So we're looking to try and find solutions that aren't just technically wonderful, but they do also support those impacts that Sam talked about as being the challenges and opportunities of the construction sector deal. And we're going to assess these on how they measure up in terms of helping productivity, reducing costs in the short term, but importantly improving whole life value. So we become a balanced scorecard and a balanced approach to do that. And so we're looking for, rather than someone to put up let's say, a internal plasterboard wall, then fit some insulation inside it, then run some conduit and run some various bits of gubbins in there, can we actually take an integrated cassette approach, bring together those people who do those trades on site and bring an integrated plug and play the components, cassette, assembly that can be put together on site, instead of using trained artisans, talking about trained assemblers. So we're taking a lot of the activity, a lot of the waste, a lot of the disruption away from the construction site. And we want to measure how that delivers benefits, not just in the capital phase, but how it supports some of those broader outcomes that we seek. So we're going to provide the superstructures, and we are now going to start looking at what that may mean for these sort of integrated solutions that may come forward. These are physical products, it may be approaches, it may be how we run logistics, how we run inspection, how we run assessment. But what we're looking to do is see if we can develop a building that could be delivered through a kit of parts. So we are then looking, if you like, this kit of parts here, but rather than just being an academic exercise where we're going to collaborate with a few people in this room to try and test out a few theories and whether they work and try and come up with some designs, we're actually going to build it. We are going to build a frame, a superstructure at the MTC in Coventry, and we are going to fit components that have come out of this programme into that. So we're running it in two phases. We firstly have an approach where we are sandpitting, as I said, where we're trying to draw together those different trades and disciplines so they can come up with integrated products. We're going to help develop the rules and the outcomes that we're seeking. We're helping to optimise those, and people engaging with this programme will get access to the sort of world-class capability from the University of Cambridge or BRE or MTC, where we will work with you to develop your product so it can be tested and built on an actual building. So we will then look to, rather than just say, here's a design that works, we're going to prove it works, and we're going to physically build it and make it and showcase it. And we're going to say to government clients who spend £15 billion a year, each year, on buildings alone, this is the sort of solution you can deploy to improve the performance of your projects, the performance of your assets. You can delight your users, you can save money, you can support the wider social, economic and environmental objectives you've talked about as things that are valuable to you. So engaging with our programme will help you to develop a coordinated, integrated project that can be deployed at scale. You will have a say in shaping the standards, in shaping the rules, and you have an opportunity to be first to market with an integrated solution that government departments have said they want to buy moving forward. So if 5 government departments, health, education, justice, defence and transport, have all said they will be adopting a presumption in favour of off-site for their capital programmes by 2019, or now, then this is how we're going to help them develop and use and integrate and understand how these products and platform solutions will help deliver those benefits to them. So you'll get these slides, but we're talking about a phase where we're doing sandpitting to try and draw those people together. Then we'll run into a competition process where we'll select those winning consortia with them, and then we will actually start to run through and develop and work with those people to develop those solutions, to develop those products, to develop those rules, to develop those standards. Now let me just be, one of the questions we get asked quite a lot is about IP. how do we, through this process, through collaborating, through engaging, protect and manage our own intellectual property? And perhaps an example to think about would be a graphics card that you would plug into a IBM motherboard. Now, what IBM do is they say, here are the slots where you have to connect your graphics card into our motherboard. This is where physically they are. These are the quality, size, spatial requirements. This is the data you need to pass through those connection points. And we will have those interface standards open source so everyone knows how to plug in to the motherboard. The actual IP that sits in the graphics card itself is yours. We're not trying to get that IP from you. We're not trying to give that IP away to anyone else. What we're saying is, here are some interface standards, here are some rules for how you connect your graphics card into our standard motherboard, and we will help you optimize your graphics card so it meets those requirements. We will be buying lots of graphics cards, and maybe lots of different types of graphics card, but we will have a common, open interface standards that everyone knows and everyone's aware of. So if someone comes up with a better graphics card in 2 years' time, they know the rules for how to get it into this ecosystem. This ecosystem of £15 billion a year's worth of buildings that government is buying at the moment. So there is some details in terms of our criteria, and I would encourage you to go to our website. Ours, because we are not giving out public money, we are providing some of our expertise to help you develop a product that may be able to enter substantial, long-term, sustainable and profitable market. Our criteria are quite simple. We want you to succeed, and we want to help you succeed, and we want to bring forward products and integrated, interoperable solutions that support the delivery of the impacts Sam has talked about, the wider benefits we're seeking through the industrial strategy, and of course, how that supports us measuring that we are indeed delivering better outcomes for the society we live in from the 65 billion plus we spend each year on infrastructure. We are also providing support, as you would have heard earlier, for the collaborative R&D calls. So where you have got perhaps collaborative R&D projects or demonstrator projects that you want to take forward into the funded programme, then we will be helping and working with UKRI to help you understand how we might help you shape or how we might point you in the right direction for some of those solutions. So you would have seen from the slides that Simon Hart put up earlier, the opportunity to speak to us, and we have an access on our website where you can ask us questions, and we have a dedicated support address that we are monitoring actively as we go through. So I'm recognising I'm taking up a lot of time, and I know Jan needs to get up now. She just swigged her last bit of gin there, so I will hand over to Jan, and obviously if there's any questions, I think there's a plan for we can take them at the end of Jan's session. So thank you very much.
Apologies, I've picked up a little bit of plain lurgy, I think, on my holiday, so it's not gin. I wish it was. Good afternoon, everybody. I've got the last slot before lunch, so I'll try and keep it brief. My name is Jan Bell. I'm the Director of Operations at the Active Building Centre. So we've heard a little bit about the construction challenges and what we've got to do to really make an impact. I'm going to talk a little bit today about what we're doing at the Active Building Centre and the role we're playing in that. There is a colleague with me, he is in the room at the back, Lloyd. If you want to pick up either of us over lunch to have a chat about various things, is here with me, and we've got people speaking at all of these sessions around the country. So, just to start, I'm not going to start with construction, I'm going to start with energy. Why am I starting with energy? Well, 40% of all energy demand comes from buildings. So our perspective at the Active Building Centre is, if we're going to transform construction, which we absolutely have to do, and change and make better buildings, then actually we can help tackle some of the climate change issues at the moment and help address some of the issues which are raised in the building's mission. So if we know we have to reduce energy consumption, energy demand, we should start with buildings. So for those of you not familiar with this graph, the blue line is the gas line, mostly used for space heating in buildings, and the red line is electricity demand. So if we carry on with the trajectory of electrifying heat, clearly the capacity isn't there. So our view is if we transform the way we manufacture and build buildings and make them active, rather than carry on making this graph worse by building buildings the way we've always built them, we should make them active and actually help support the energy network at the same time. We'll actually help solve some of the energy trilemma issues of security, affordability, sustainability, etc. So moving on. We are the Active Building Centre based down in South Wales. We have a network of partners, which I will talk about, and really we see this as a long-term vision. If we're going to address some of these challenges, we're absolutely going to make some impacts in the next few years, but this really has to be a massive transformation, not only in the worlds of construction, but in the worlds of energy, if we're really going to hit the vehicle electrification targets and decarbonisation targets. And our approach is very much about seeing vehicles and transport as part of the solution. At the end of the day, it's mobile storage, so we should be using that and incorporating that into the vision. Our mission really is to create an independent centre. I think a lady earlier asked a question about ecosystem. There currently isn't really a defined ecosystem to develop the approach for active buildings. This has got to be about bringing together not only the energy space, but the construction space, technology, financial products, business models. We need this whole grouping to come together to try and solve the problems we face. So for us, this mission really is about creating a national centre backed by government that brings together all these organisations. So in terms of what is an active building, for us this is really about buildings that support the energy network. Back to the graph that I showed earlier, we shouldn't be making the problem worse. We've got a chance now to actually not only transform construction but transform energy. So for us this is about buildings that support the energy network, that intelligently integrate renewable technologies into buildings for the benefit of heat, power and transport, and that's really what we're aiming for. And I'll talk a little bit more in a few slides about what we mean by the principles of active buildings. So who have we been working with as part of setting up the Active Building Centre? These are some organisations, I know some are represented in the room, who kind of buy into this vision and who are supporting us on our journey. We're hoping to pull more organisations in, hopefully with sessions like this and future funding there's a chance for further collaboration. And some of these partners can be hopefully supporting you in some of your projects. So they are dotted across the UK. They come from technology backgrounds, small companies, large companies, energy companies, construction companies, and critically, we need everybody to come together on this to solve this problem. We have 10 university partners, so we have funded partners within the programme that are contributing their world-class expertise in this area. This ranges from everything from technology development, energy modelling, demand reduction, social science, city scale mapping, everything is in the mix. So working together, what are we gonna deliver and what are our objectives? So Sam put this slide up earlier. Within this time frame we've got to be visible. We've got to have buildings that people can visit, that they can understand whether the occupants benefit from the energy or whether it's a burden, whether the technologies work, what are the business models, what do they look like, how do they experience them. So for us, this critical mass of buildings within this funded period is essential, and we're really hopeful that this funded scheme can actually help produce some demonstrator buildings that we can use. The evidence framework that results from these buildings is absolutely critical for us. If we're not in a position to actually demonstrate to government why these buildings work, how much they cost, what the benefits are, then we're never going to get policy change. So ultimately that's what we're trying to do, is get a coordinated approach to this. So the buildings are really important. The evidence that comes from the buildings is critical. And really we want to be using these active buildings as energy positive agents. We need the buildings to be optimised so that they add benefit to this energy network and use energy in the best way, in the most flexible way. We are going to be aggregating this information at national scale. So we want a range of buildings in different geographies, of different typologies, of different scales, so that ultimately we can model this and understand what the impacts could be at national scale. Retrofit has been touched upon. This isn't a core part of this activity, but we all know it's the big problem. So we're keen to take some of the learnings that we're adopting from the new build focus and then look at how we could apply that into retrofit, because we know that really The 25 million buildings we've already got that need sorting are the big challenge. Create a sustainable centre. Again, this is going to be a long-term activity. If we're going to really get government behind this and get all different organisations, devolved administrations into this, we really need an independent centre that can offer advice. And again, coming back to that ecosystem point, this is about bringing organisations together, understanding, not replicating, not duplicating, really taking pockets of excellence where they exist. So, hopefully there'll be buildings out there that already meet our active buildings criteria. Well, we want that data. We want to bring it in so we can use that and help understand the bigger picture. So what are we going to deliver? This evidence point for us is absolutely at the heart of this. We need the data from the buildings to understand and model and work out what needs changing. That can then feed into policy recommendations, whether that's at a planning level, whether that's at a city deal level, or whether that's for the future home standards. Whatever those are going to be, these policy recommendations need to be based on robust evidence. Picking out some other things, tools, we're going to be develop performance specifications. So this is about, government spend of the future, social housing, schools, prisons, how do we feed into performance specifications and not have to reinvent the wheel, and actually drive active buildings principles to deliver basically a change to that graph as you saw it at the beginning. The business models that underpin these buildings are crucial. What are the commercial drivers? Where is the value in the supply chain? Are we creating energy as a service? These underpinning business models, I think, are absolutely critical and are what we're looking to get out of these demonstration buildings. So what are we talking about when we're saying active buildings? I won't read each one of those out. The slides are going to be distributed. This is what our ideal scenario is in terms of the criteria. There might be slight differences to this, but essentially we're starting with a fabric first approach. There's got to be energy efficiency and lower energy demand in the buildings themselves. We obviously want on-site renewable generation. This has to be about storage and time shifting, be that electrical storage and heat storage. And there are activities and partners in the programme looking at next generation interseasonal heat storage. Because when you look at those blue lines, if we're going to smooth those off and actually generate heat in the summer months, store it, and then use it in the winter months, that is absolutely critical for this to be successful. Vehicles I touched on earlier, and then obviously, intelligently, flexibly managing this new distributed network. Moving on, in terms of projects that we are looking for or projects that we are already undertaking, there are many in our pipeline. If anything, at the minute, we're struggling to cope with the amount of interest that we get, and we've got to make sure we work on the right projects. We need the data critically within this kind of 18-month time frame to give us enough time to analyse that data and then use it within the lifetime of this funded activity. So we're looking at a target mixed development, residential, offices, schools, the full suite. Public sector procurement, so we're dealing with many of the organisations that Sam alluded to earlier, whether that's social housing, whether that's schools. There's got to be a driver, I think, from government on this. And we want to create a longer term pipeline. A lot of these developments are in the making for years and years and years. So we need to make sure now that we are understanding where these big scalable developments are that we can really add some value to. So in terms of what we've done to date, many of you will be familiar with these buildings down in South Wales at Swansea University. We have done an active classroom. This was done using a panelised system, which I'll show you a little video. This was constructed in 2016 with some technologies that weren't even fully commercialised at that stage. So some novel heated floor systems, solar PV, storage, and this has been very successful. We plug vehicles into this building. It's used every day as a teaching facility, and as you can see, has generated enough energy to, if you wanted to, drive a Nissan Leaf for 26,000 miles. So really, really successful. A little video of the construction of the building. This was used using a new panelised system with a startup company called Matrix, and in conjunction with Tata Steel. And we've also got the active office, which was the other building on that first slide. This is different. This was a more scalable development using existing commercial technologies brought together for the first time. So we're just going through the data on this now, having fully commissioned it and optimized a lot of the controls and the technology. I should have put a link, but it's on the website. At any time, you can log on to this analysis tool and see what that office is doing in terms of its energy at any point in the day. It's a live stream. So it's been really interesting to see how that is kind of bedding down and how successful it is. We've got some Naked Energy, which is a new company with some PVT tubes. We've got our curved BIPV integrated roof. So a whole bunch of exciting new technology. We'll watch a little video of this going through. This was done with a volumetric system with a company called Weir. As the active building centre, we actually occupy this office at the moment, so we're kind of guinea pigs in our own making. So this is the Swansea University Bay campus, and this is a quick video of the active office going up. So the screw piles went in, the volumetric system by Weir was delivered to site, and we decided to try some new kind of approaches with this building, hence the wooden trusses for the curved BIPV integrated roof. As I mentioned earlier, this is our analysis system with Cisco. It's actually had its EPC rating and it's come up as an A+, so we're really pleased about that. In terms of the mentioned earlier about government procurement and kind of leading from the front, Welsh Government, in the same way that Scottish Government and GLA and others provide grant funding for social housing, we've supported this scheme done in South Wales with a company called Pobl, which is a social housing provider, and this is 16 homes. One of the key drivers was to reduce fuel poverty. So this has had a fabric-first approach, and the aim is to significantly reduce the energy bills of the occupants with no gas connection, Tesla Powerwall batteries, an integrated PV solution, a solar heat collector system on the homes, and they are literally just being finished as we speak for occupation in October. This is how they currently look. I know Sam and colleagues have visited them, so we're really excited to get some real people living in these buildings and understand how they work, what the costs are, so we can use it as a model really for other homes. That's it from me, other than to say the kinds of projects that we're interested in, as I mentioned earlier, really are multi-unit developments that meet the active building principles, so please check out the website. If you want to talk to us, I can by all means give you my card, but if you can come through our Info Active Building Centre, we can actually record it against this approach and make sure it's all followed up properly. And then data is the key one for us really, that there's a funded project that we can use your data and build it into the activities. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan, for pushing through. I know you're not feeling too good today, so thank you for coming and giving us that presentation. And if they can make solar energy work in windy, wet and wild Wales, I think we can make it work anywhere in the country. So that concludes the formal presentation part for today. We now just move on to the informal part of today. You're welcome to join us for lunch. We have lunch available upstairs for you, so please do partake of food there. We'll be staying on for about 2 hours after this time, so our speakers and everyone you've heard present this morning will be here for the next 2 hours, so feel free to grab them. I would ask if you could allow them to at least get something to eat at the start before you pounce on them, else they tend to go without food and start to wilt. So yeah, allow them a quick break, and then by all means come and grab any one of the people from Innovate UK, from the Construction Innovation Hub, from the Active Building Centre, and of course from ourselves at the KTN, myself and Louise. So thank you very much for coming today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I wish you a safe journey onwards. Thank you.